Okay, we heard the Carolina Club Orchestra, and that's alias Hal Kemp's band. 1925, Red Hot Mama, great baritone sax solo in the midst of that. Now, Hal Kemp, he had an interesting career. He ended up as a guest conductor, I think, in the Chicago Symphony. He's one of those rare instances where a pop musician actually worked as a classical conductor as well. Bit of a background there. He died in 1940 at the age of 36. He was quite young, but that's a pretty hot recording from 1925. All right, we enjoy playing 20s music on these airs. This is a part of the culture of these Friday night transmissions, test transmissions, and we start off with a bit of 20s material and then morph into a bit of OTR, some classical music offerings, and it sort of just takes its own course. Well, it's very spontaneous tonight. I have not been in the shack since last Friday, I don't think, not even opened the door. It's been a crazy week, and, well, you know, this is what happens. It's all about sort of working on the seat of my pants. Well, I took a handful of records off the shelf, I plonked one on the turntable, very ad hoc, and we'll have a listen to, I think it's the Rhythmic 8 and a recording called, what's it called? I better find out. That's right, I'm Crazy Over You. I quite like this record, and it's on an old Zonophone, and I will... yes, I'll hot shoe over to the other side of the room and see if we can get this one queued up. This is VK3SL, testing on 160 metres, 2 metres, and the broadwave streaming service.
Fly upon a mountain, the distance interferes with the view, but anyone can see with half an eye that I'm crazy over you. It's hard to see a needle in a haystack, the hay's in the way of a view, but anyone can see with half an eye that I'm crazy over you. You'll need a telescope to really get the dough, watch stars up in the blue, but you don't have to buy a telescope to spy that I'm in love with you. It's hard to see the bottom of the ocean, the water interferes with the view, but anyone can see with both eyes shut that I'm crazy over you.
Okay, we heard the Rhythmic 8 from 1929, featuring Max Goldberg on the trumpet. That's an artist known to Mr. L, who may be listening to this. Recording with John Furman and his group. It's a bit of a scratch orchestra recorded on Xonophone. Quite like the way that one sort of meanders along. It's a fun record. And so, yes, that was a nice find on the shelf. Okay, well, let's see what else is on the playlist. This is VK3SL, a test transmission. And we're looking at a range of music from the 20s. As per usual, we do this every week. A selection of random selection of recordings made in the 20s and sometimes the 30s. We may even sometimes almost get into the 40s, but the 20s is the domain that I like to inhabit. Let's have a look. Oh yes, I found a record in the minor key. I'll go and check what it is. I was looking through a few and this one jumped out at me. So maybe it's got some prospect. There's still a bit of RF getting in and a bit of a one-note bass effect. Don't know about that. Can't do much at this stage. I did retune the transmitter and made a few system changes which seem to be putting out a little bit more power than I have in other weeks. So about 60, 70 watts maybe. But so the system seems to be happier in that regard, but I haven't been able to mitigate against that RF issue when I turn up the fader too high for the turntables. Maybe I need more toroids. Let's have a look. Hold this up to the microphonics, and we have here, this is a minor key song. It's a Depressions era song about 1930. It's on a Vocalion, and it's Chris Bullock with a recording called Just... the one I love just can't be bothered with me, and it's a little bit of a sob story, but yeah, that's the way it goes. This is VK3SL test transmission.
Be in love when the one you're thinking of never has a single thought about you. I just fell in love alone, even though I should have known she could never care, but what can I do? I just go along, right or wrong, thinking of her constantly. But the one I love just can't be bothered with me. Try to stay away, and I say I'll find other company. 'Cause the one I love just can't be bothered with me. I keep making my mind up, but I wind up hanging around her old front door. When I get a real throwdown, I feel low down, but I keep coming back for more. Maybe I could get some I've mend, but there's no one I can see. Just the one who says she can't be bothered with me. I just go along, right or wrong, thinking of her constantly. But the one I love just can't be bothered with me. Try to stay away, and I say I'll find other company. 'Cause the one I love just can't be bothered with me. I keep making my mind up, but I wind up hanging around her old front door. When I get a real throwdown, I feel low down, but I keep coming back for more. Maybe I could get some that I've meant, but there's no one I can see. Just the one who says she can't be bothered with me.
Okay, we heard Chris Bullock with The One I Love Just Can't Be Bothered With Me on a Vocalion record recorded about 1930-ish with a distinctly Depression's flavour to it. After the stock market crash, there's a lot of records which had that sort of more reflective ambience. And yeah, that's it's sort of not entirely in a minor key, but yeah, it's got that more subdued nature. All right, something quite the opposite now, a little bit of local material. Last week we had some Ray Tallier's San Francisco Orchestra when they were touring Australia in the about 1927. Well, from that same period, we'll hear the studio band from 2FC in Sydney, and a bit of fun from their orchestra conducted by Eric Pierce. And this record is called Fire. VK3SL testing.
Ukulele. I'm burning up, I'm burning up. Fire, 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 fire. Just learn the truth of flaming youth. Fire, 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 turn the hose on me. Out in the park, just off the dock, she leaned against my shoulder, my poor heart began to smolder. Extinguisher, extinguish me. Fire, 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 turn the hose on me.
The syncopations of the 2FC Studio Dance Orchestra recorded in Sydney in 1927 under the direction of Eric Pierce. That's Fire. I reckon I might turn that disc over. I'd forgotten I had that one there, and we'll just see what's on the other side. Could be interesting. I have no idea. It's something about the kids' parade or something. I'll have a look. Standing on by. We'll have it. Turn the record over. And what do we have? Yes, My Dream of the Big Parade. And what other information can I glean from this? There's not a lot else to say other than it's on a Columbia. It's R279. So, made in Sydney. Let's have a listen. VK3SL testing. Okay, that was the 2FC Studio Dance Orchestra, a bit of local material from 1927 on a Columbia. Fulfilling the 20s zeal. This is 20s music from the 20s to kick off this test transmission on 160 metres, 2 metres, and also streaming live on the Broadwave streaming service, noting there's a few people online listening today or tonight. Okay, well, next thing is I think I'll feature another one of these hi-fi recordings from the 30s, early 30s. As I've described before, the Victor Studios implemented a Bell Labs system with yielding hi-fi potential. It's a potential that wasn't fully realised on the domestic sphere because no one had the equipment to play back hi-fi recordings. It was an experiment, and one of the studios at Victor in New York was equipped to record in this way, and it's only now that we're able to sort of enjoy these to their full capacity. But the experiment only lasted for a few years, from 1931, I think, to about 1934. And so, yes, you have to pick the records that were actually made in that particular studio. And it's interesting to hear them. They're mostly on the 2400 series, 24,000 series, so on Victor. And anyhow, we'll have a listen to one of these. Have I got this lined up now, or do I not? Oh, yes, I do. Here it is here. Yeah, so we'll have a listen to this recording made in 1932. It's Isham Jones and his orchestra. And this is particularly interesting because the band is recorded with high-quality condenser microphones, but the vocalist, I think it's Eddie Stone on this record, he's actually using a carbon grain microphone, double-button carbon mic, and you can hear that it's distinctly lo-fi in comparison to the rest of the band. So it's sort of, he sounds like he's singing in a vacuum. And so it's a real sort of displacement of era experience hearing this. And it reflects the sort of, I suppose they just didn't really have a lot of regard for the way they set things up because most people couldn't hear the difference anyhow. But we can do this with the benefit of modern transcription equipment. So, yeah, Isham Jones, did some great work with the tuba. I like the tuba, sound of the tuba, and of course that's well expressed with the hi-fi, and nice saxophone playing by Mr. Isham himself, I think, on this as well. And so I'll let this one play out and see what you think of it. And so in the spirit of capturing hi-fi of the 30s, we'll have a listen to a song called Always in My Heart. This is Isham Jones and his orchestra, and I'm VK3SL.
Forever on my mind, no matter what I do, I find that you're always in my heart and forever on my mind. When I'm all alone and gloomy clouds appear, those gloomy clouds are silver lined, 'cause you're always in my heart and forever on my mind. I have built a world of hope about you. You're part of me, dear, I'm part of you. Life would be an empty shell without you. A love like this I never knew. Living just for you, to
today, tomorrow too. And when I leave this world behind, you'll be always in my heart and forever on my mind.
That beautiful lyrical saxophone playing from Mr. Jones, and interesting record, Always in My Heart, 1932, and we heard the Isham Jones Orchestra with the vocalist of Eddie Stone, and who sounded like he was singing through a comb and tissue paper. It was pretty lackluster compared to the sound of the full-blooded sound of the orchestra. Quite a nice arrangement, and recorded in hi-fi or pseudo hi-fi, and reflecting that Bell Labs set up at the Victor Studios in New York. One of the studios had that equipment, and it was actually decommissioned in 1934 and then reinstated in an updated guise in 1938. I think they realised that there was greater potential with laminated pressings, and probably by the late 30s more people had the facilities to play back hi-fi recordings. So interesting development. So we'll hear one of these ones from the Victor Studios in 1938, and this is by that stage we're up to the 26,000 series, so it's quite a bit later on. And by then the 44BX ribbon microphone was well and truly in production and used universally, and we certainly hear that the distinctive coloration of that microphone here. In fact, you hear it pop a few times. This is quite a good record. This is Larry Clinton and his orchestra, and recorded in 38. What else can I say about this? Who's the vocalist? We'll just have to have a look through the information here. It's B. Wayne. Ah, yes. She's actually very good. I had a little listen to this earlier in the week, and I thought it was worthwhile putting on the list, so I'll have a listen. I'm just hoping it doesn't do a bit of a restart. Sometimes I'm having a bit of trouble with YouTube going for a bit of a break after the start of the song, which is a bit disruptive if you're getting into the music. So I'm wondering what's going to happen now. So with apologies if that does occur. All right, we'll have a listen. My Heart Belongs to Daddy. This is Larry Clinton and his orchestra.
While tearing off a game of golf, I may make a play for the caddy, but when I do, I don't follow through, 'cause my heart belongs to Daddy. If I invite a boy some night to dine on my fine Finn and Hattie, I just adore his asking for more, but my heart belongs to Daddy. Yes, my heart belongs to Daddy, so I simply couldn't be bad. Yes, my heart belongs to Daddy. Da 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 da. So I want to warn you, laddie, though I know you're perfectly swell, that my heart belongs to Daddy, 'cause my daddy, he treats me so well. simply couldn't be bad. Yes, my heart belongs to Daddy. Dad, 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 dad. So I want to warn you, laddie, though I know you're perfectly swell, that my heart belongs to Daddy, 'cause my daddy, he treats me so well.
Okay, we heard then B. Wayne, and with Larry Clinton and his orchestra. And that's My Heart Belongs to Daddy, Cole Porter song, recorded in 1938. That's from the show Leave It to Me. And it's pretty interesting lyrics, actually, if you listen to them closely. But yeah, lovely to hear the lyrical strains of B's voice with the 44BX microphone. Yes, the ribbon velocity mic was well and truly in use. And you can tell that's the microphone in use. It just gives such a liquid presentation, beautiful sound. So yes, and again recorded in hi-fi at the Victor Studios. That one in 1938. Okay, well, I know what I might do. I'll jump across to Britain and we'll hear something very, very risque from Mr. Formby. Found this one when I was meandering around. I thought, my God, how could they get away with this? It's absolutely outrageous, actually, but they did. This is what happens when during, I suppose it was wartime or maybe a bit before. It's a live performance of George Formby with My Little Stick of Blackpool Rock. And I wonder what the hell he means by that. VK3SL.
I've got some special marks for this. Every year when summer comes round, off to the sea I go. I don't care if I do spend £1. I'm rather rash, I know. See me dressed like all the sports, in me blazer and a pair of shorts, with me little stick of Blackpool Rock. Along the promenade I stroll. It may be sticky, but I never complain. It's nice to have a nibble at it now and again. Every day, wherever I stray, the kids all round me flock. One afternoon, the band conductor up on his stand somehow lost his baton, it flew out of his hand. So I jumped in his place and then conducted the band with me little stick of Blackpool Rock. With me little stick of Blackpool Rock. Along the promenade I stroll. In the ballroom I went dancing one night. No wonder every girl I danced with stuck to me tight. Every day, wherever I stray, the kids all round me flock. I had me photo taken once, it cost 1 and 3. I said when it was done, is that supposed to be me? You've probably mucked it up, the only thing I can see is me little stick of Blackpool Rock. With me little stick of Blackpool Rock. Along the promenade I stroll. In my pocket it got stuck, I could tell, 'cause when I pulled it out, I pulled my shirt off as well. Every day, wherever I stray, the kids all round me flock. A girl while bathing clung to me, I shouted out, oh. She said, I think I'm drowning and you'll save me, I know. I said, well, if you're drowning, do you mind letting go of me little stick of Blackpool Rock?
Okay. I don't think I need to say anything else about that. That reflects a certain predisposition of the British at that time, a certain repression, to say nothing else. All right, we'll let that one go to the keeper, I think, Mr. Formby. But yeah, all right, let's get back on track again. It was a bit too yuck, that one. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I thought I'd do a little bit of a feature on Connie Boswell. Connie Boswell was a great vocalist. I think she was born in New Orleans. And how do we start this? There's a few things about Connie here. She featured with us. Actually, her sisters, she and two of her sisters, Martha and Vet, were classically trained musicians. They came from a musical family, and they were a piano trio, and they performed in that guise. And then later on, she, the three sisters actually formed a vocal trio and performed it to an astonishing level with the way they melded their voices. They're an amazing group. And then Connie went out as a soloist later on after the other girls departed, became married and what have you. So it's interesting to sort of look at their careers, but musically they are just something to behold. They're incredible artists, and they really absorbed the style of the times, and they had, I think all three of them had perfect pitch, and their sense of union as in style is just something extraordinary. Maybe we'll start with a recording of the three Boswell sisters. We'll have a listen to them sing Crazy People. This is from a film, The Big Broadcast, made in 1932. It's a film featuring Bing Crosby as well, but we'll have a listen to their little cameo on that film, and a song called Crazy People. This is the Boswell sisters, Martha, Vet, and Connie.
Crazy people, crazy people, crazy people like me, go crazy old people like you. Goofy people, daffy people like me, go crazy over things you do. While we are underneath the moon, I'm on above. You've got me acting just like a loony, it must be love, we love. Crazy people like me, go crazy over people like you. Crazy people like you. Crazy people like the things you do when we are under the moon above. You got me acting just like a loon. It must be love. Crazy people like you, 'cause lovebirds of a feather always flock together. It's an old custom of the horse that keeps folks from drifting apart. Now that's the reason, baby, that I call you baby. We're each other's counterparts. Crazy people, crazy people, crazy people, crazy people, crazy people like me go crazy over people like you. Wow, goofy people, daft people, daft people like me go crazy over things you do. Wow, no money for raven lot, sweet angel child. It's just a habit I've got. You drive me wild. Crazy people, daft people, daft people, daft people like me go crazy over things like you. Wow.
And we heard the Boswell sisters, recorded in 1932 from the Big Broadcast, Crazy People. And you can certainly hear the blend and how their voices had an unnatural sense of synergy and sameness. And they just sound like one voice miraculously in chorus. It's an incredible effect. I have a personal association with that song because my partner Kate, she years ago used to be in a choir back in the early 90s called the Melbourne Vocal Ensemble, and Kate actually arranged that very recording. She wrote it all out, all three parts, and listened to that performance, and and sketched the whole thing. It took quite a while. It was a big job. And then they performed it, but it really gave an insight into the degree of musicianship of the Boswell sisters, just the way that they voiced themselves and their remarkable ability to match and preserve the same sort of tonal characteristics. They're incredible. So we'll have to listen to more Boswell sisters, I think. And yeah, but look, Connie Boswell is a really interesting character, and she went out on her own after the others sort of paired off and did other things, and she had a very distinctive solo career. And she suffered from polio earlier on. She was in a wheelchair for most of her life. So before we hear a recording of her, I found an interesting interview with Connie Boswell. And it's from 1963. It's a TV interview. It's a little bit, I'm going to sort of jump around a little bit. So, because it's a talk host show, it's Lee Phillips' talk host show, and it's sort of got a lot of boring stuff as well. But she talks a little bit about her background playing classical music, and then talks about her battle with, well, not battle, but her way she overcame her disability as well. She's very open, and it's quite interesting to hear this. So I thought we'd just play that, and then we'll listen to something of Connie Boswell's. So let's have a listen to Connie Boswell on The Lee Phillips Show, 1963. I'm VK3SL.
Now we'd like you to meet our guest, Connie Boswell, famous singer, and her dog, Rebel.
Hello there, Lee. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Well, Connie, I was reading about you today, and it said that you learned to play the cello, the saxophone, the clarinet. What are some of the others?
Well, here, come here, boy. He's falling on the thing.
Hold on, Rebel.
I did study cello when I was quite a little tot, about 4 years old. Oh, he's getting tired. Let me just turn him around here.
Right,
come here,
sure.
boy. Come on. Yeah. He's like I am, you know.
All of it.
I started cello, Lee, when I was 4 years old, and but I didn't study any of the other instruments, but I loved music so dearly, and I come from a musical family.
That's true.
So I'm trying to keep his attention so he doesn't try to get down. Yeah. Well, I'll give you that later. You be a good boy.
When did you start training dogs?
Well, I always had a dog, but in between times when I didn't have one, why, I would train the neighbors' dogs. It was a hobby, you know, when I was a little girl, and I love all animals. And so to get back to the music, I started the cello, and I learned music but that way. But I love the piano and guitar and all instruments, so the rest of the instruments that I play, Lee, I taught myself.
Good for you.
That's a good boy.
You have some tricks that you accomplish with Rebel that are almost We'll see you later, Rebel.
Yes.
Thanks for stopping by.
Goodbye. Go with Eric.
He may stay with us.
Yeah, oh, there. You go. Go ahead. Well, my philosophy is very simple, I think, Lee. Many people listening in might not know it. Perhaps many do not know it or have forgotten it, but I had polio when I was 3 years old. And I was paralyzed from the top of my head right down to my toe. I couldn't move anything. They had to feed me through a tube. And of course, when I was 4 years old, Lee, let's face it, that was not exactly last Tuesday. And we didn't have all these vaccines and iron lungs, and we didn't have the knowledge that they have today. And of course, they're still working on it, but they knew nothing about it when I was a child. And so my mother just started in a kind of a logical way, and she started trying to make me crawl all over again to get the strength back. And within about 6 months after I had polio, the strength in my arms came back a little bit. And as I said, my family are musical. And Mother wanted me to study cello, all classical music. And of course, the practicing, you know, and I loved it. I adored it. And I think practicing the cello helped bring a lot of strength back into my arms. And I believe that that's a good philosophy in itself. People who even aren't handicapped or don't know that they're handicapped, because in my way of thinking, everyone is handicapped in some way or other. If a fine violinist has to get in a ring with a trained prize fighter, he is definitely handicapped one way or other. But the so-called handicapped people who have had accidents, or blind people who can't hear, you just have to work twice as hard, or sometimes 10 times harder. I know, going by myself, I have had to work so much harder than the average person. When I'd play theaters, the Roxy in New York City. They had big production numbers, and they didn't want you sitting low in a wheelchair. So we got an idea where I would sit on a tall cocktail stool and put the dress around, and I learned to kick my feet out so that when I'd come with two course boys bringing me out all dressed up, that I looked like I was walking at the time. And my philosophy is that everyone has a certain amount of talent. God gives us all something, and we must seek to find out what that something is and just work as hard as we can to do the best we can with what we've got. And we must be able to face obstacles and try to climb over them. As someone said many, many years ago before all of us, obstacles are only stepping stones to success. And I think that if we just keep trying, all of us can do a lot more than we ever thought we could. And that's my philosophy. No matter what the problem is, just keep working hard to try to overcome it. You might not overcome the whole thing, but you'll get so far that it'll just be surprising what you can do.
Well, Connie, that's very inspirational. We want to thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, not at all, Lee. It's a pleasure.
Okay, we'll just let that one restart, and we'll have a listen to Connie Boswell singing Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. This is recorded in about 1935. Hopefully it'll work this time.
They ask me how I knew my true love was true. I, of course, replied, something here inside cannot be denied. They said someday you'll find all who love are blind. When your heart's on fire, you must realize smoke gets in your eyes. So I chaff them and I gaily laugh to think they could doubt my love. Yet today my love has flown away. I am without my love. Now laughing friends deride tears I cannot hide. So I smile and say, when a lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your Now today my love has flown away. I am without my love. Now laughing friends deride tears I cannot hide. So I smile and say, when the lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your
And we heard Connie Boswell with Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, recorded in the mid-30s. And unmistakable voice and perfect pitch. Her sense of pitch is just astonishing. and very centred, and just a consummate musician. She's one of my favourite vocalists from the 30s, and I am in awe of all the recordings that the Boswell sisters made in the late 20s until the early 30s, and of course what Connie did as a soloist afterwards. And that was preceded by just a short interview with her of a 60s sitcom, 60s, I don't know, interview show. Let's have a listen to, I reckon what I'll do now is I'll change tack and have a listen to another part of the Graham Kennedy program. I'm lucky that I actually downloaded this when it came up on Alex Hare's site, because his site's since been pulled off YouTube. It's a shame. It was an amazing resource, and it certainly provided me with lots of interesting and rare material for these test transmissions. Suffice to say that he's, due to unforeseen copyright breaches, his site has been terminated, and it all happened in one instant, really. And the three concurrent episodes of one of his radio serials were in line for 3 strikes, but they happened so abruptly that there was no chance for him to retort and to protest, and then his whole site and well over 1,000, probably close to 2,000 items was lost. So it's a great shame, and I don't know if it's a huge effort to put them all back up, so we might have lost that archive. I downloaded a few things, but it not a huge amount, but I did take the liberty to copy this Graham Kennedy, this rare tape of Graham Kennedy from 1970. So we'll have a listen to this, another little excerpt from his interview with, his discussion with Nancy Lee, reflection actually of the earlier times, and Nancy Lee and Nick Witter. And it's quite interesting to hear Kennedy in the skies. He certainly is in more of a pensive frame of mind, I think. So let's have a listen to Gra Gra.
So tough to dance on.
Smooth to lie on. Colors. Bright money of mine.
And Floor Coverings Proprietary Limited, the only withered place to buy wall-to-wall carpet. We've got the range, we've got the know-how. It's the Proprietary Limited that makes the difference at City, Burwood, Mentone and Malvern. Come and see us. Set the scene right with carpet.
Just for your tippy-tip toes.
57 degrees, Melbourne, cloudy to overcast with a little rain, chiefly late today and overnight, moderate to occasional fresh northeast winds. On the bays, northeast winds of 15 to 20 knots at times with rather rough seas, and a strong wind warning is current for all Victorian coastal waters. 3XY 2020 News.
Nancy Lee, I wonder if you'd tell me the story of this next old recording we have from 3AW, I think. This is called Do You Believe Me? How did this come about?
Yes, it was a little song that Burns and Allen, Gracie Allen and George Burns had recorded, and Nick and I made a tape of this. And in it, there's a little bit of Chatterbox Corner patter to begin with, but in it he calls me Kathy Rooster. I used to call him Nicky Pickles, and why he called me Kathy Rooster, I will never know. I mean, my name was Kathleen.
But it's not very flattering.
But the rooster was so funny, wasn't it? But then Nick was funny, wasn't he?
He was very funny.
So,
Kathy Rooster, I remember him calling you Kathy Rooster, even later on.
That's right.
So this is Do You Believe Me?
Now, you're not a bit grateful to me for helping you out of a predicament, Nicky Pickles?
Oh, Kathy Rooster, don't growl at us. You know, I'm most appreciative.
Appreciative?
Yeah. You listen and I'll tell you how much.
All right.
I love you, love you, love you, dear. I cross my heart, I do. Do you believe me?
I do.
You're the one and only girl I ever told that to. Do you believe me? I ain't talking.
Oh! I ain't talking.
Nicky and Nancy Lee, do you believe me? And obviously that was Margot Sheridan at the piano.
Yes, dear old Margot. She's still going strong, isn't she?
Oh, is she ever? I heard from her the other day, and she listens to the program. So why don't you say hello?
Hello, Marg. Oh, I'd love to see her again.
People. She has helped more people in show business in this country than anyone else, I think.
Yes, she was a wonderful help to us. You know, nothing was a trouble, and she'd go to all sorts of trouble to get the accompaniment to a song that there was no music written for, something I'd made up myself, you know, and she was wonderful, really.
When in trouble with a song, for us non-singers, or at least I'm talking about myself, you would fly, I'm talking about IMT, you'd fly to Margot Sheridan and say, Margot, I'm in terrible trouble, I can't do this. And she'd say, yes, you can. And we'd do it 9,000 times, and sure enough, I could. And I think Evie Hayes would be the first person to say if it hadn't been for Margot Sheridan, she possibly wouldn't have got through Annie Get Your Gun.
Is that so? Yes.
Margot has helped all of us so much. She really has.
If she liked a person, she couldn't do enough for them.
Western Star have made a Butte cheese. Western Star processed cheddar would be the cheesiest cheddar you've ever tasted. Western Star have foil wrapped it in a special way so that the foil never becomes embedded in the cheese. Isn't that crafty of Western Star? Then they put it in a handy zip strip pack with a reclosable lid. Western Star flavour, Western Star goodness. Try some, Mum. Western Star processed cheddar. It's better packed, and it's better cheddar cheese. It's the best. Just like their butter.
Is your television receiver playing up? Why don't you call in one of Melbourne's most reliable service companies? Call Astor at 690300. They have trained engineers in all suburbs. That's right, the company with over 1 million television receivers in homes all over Australia. They know how to look after you at Astor, and that phone number is 690300. Pleasant people to do business with. That's Astor, 690300.
It's just 9 minutes past 12.
If you like meeting people and you have from 1 to 5 days a week available, Manpower would like to talk to you about a full or part-time position as a product demonstrator or a survey worker. Manpower can usually place you close to where you live, and you'll be very well paid too. Talk it over with Manpower. Temporary help services now on 612785.
Ask for Miss Pat Ellis at Manpower. Miss Ellis is waiting to take your call right this minute. 612785. Here's a great offer from Take a Holiday with the air. See, I'm getting excited. I want to get rid of these. I must apologise to all our clients today because I'm really more interested in Nancy Lee and Memories of Nicky than I am in your ads. So in endeavouring to get through all this rubbish, I'm starting to fluff a lot. Here's a great offer from Take a Holiday. With every painting order received this month, Take a Holiday will shampoo any 2 homes for just $4 per room. Yes, that's right. Carpet shampooed by professionals for just $4 with every paint order received this month. And there's no limit to the number of rooms either. Take a Holiday's painting prices are the best in Melbourne. Listen, bedrooms from $23. Bathrooms from $19. Iron roofs from $55 and weatherboards from $199. That's the whole house. All, the exterior anyway. All work is fully guaranteed. Ring Bill Murray now. He'll give you a free, no obligation quote on all forms of house painting. Check out more painting specials in today's Sun and Age newspapers. Take a Holiday are Melbourne's professional home painters. Ring Bill Murray now, 856896 for further information. Oh, and a new client. I must be nice to him because he hasn't had a go before. And also, in not too many days, I'm taking a car from these people. Everywhere you go in Frankston, there's new Fords. New Fords, new Falcons, Fairlanes, Fairmonts, Cortinas, Capris, and Escorts. All from Cooper Ford at Frankston. Cooper Ford are determined people. Cooper Ford will not be beaten. They're keen, enthusiastic, and determined to put more money back in your pocket. See, Frankston people are lucky. They know Cooper Ford, the exciting new place with the exciting new deal on Ford motor cars. Now, you might think, why would I buy a Ford at Frankston? Mum, let me tell you, and please tell Dad, it'll be worth the trip. You'll not only save the price of your petrol down, you save a lot of money if you at least have a talk to Cooper Ford. A Ford from Cooper Ford, the success car of the year, now at the deal of the year. Just for taking an enjoyable drive to Cooper Ford of Frankston. Do Dad a favour, girls. Take him to Cooper Ford, 91 Young Street, Frankston, that's just near the railway station, and get more money back in your pocket. We'll talk again, because I'm nearly on time. See, that hasn't changed either. I can remember Nick saying, well, it's 5 to 1, and there are 23 to go. So, on those days, they got about a sentence each.
Or he made them into a fairy story, remember?
I remember the fairy stories. That let us get through, say, 30 different sponsors.
Little Red Riding Hood or Cinderella or something.
Yes, he'd say, Little Red Riding Hood went to Seymour Firs and had a lovely present. And then she drove away in a Cooper Ford from Cooper Ford of Frankston after drinking her tiny tips tea. And then she had a tiny drop of Tintara wine. Oh, it's a lush drop, Tintara. And we'd get through the whole lot in 5 minutes. It wasn't unfair, of course, because on other days they got a very good go.
Yes, of course. And do you remember the bugle? Unwrap it and blow it?
Oh, tell me about that again.
That was for Ford pills, wasn't it?
That's right.
And he used to pretend to bring this bugle. The bugle was on disc, of course, and he used to pretend to bring it in. He'd say he took it off the dresser at home and he wrapped it up in paper, and there was a great to-do about bringing in the bugle.
And it was recorded anyway.
And then he'd make a great to-do about unwrapping it, and then they'd put on the disc with the bugle blowing for Ford pills.
No, I can't remember how. Dum dum da dum. Yes, that's right. F-O-R-D.
That's right. Yes, that was it.
If you listen, do you listen to us? Do you listen to Timothy and myself during the concert?
Oh yes, I must tell you something funny about that.
Oh.
See, I can't bear to miss a word, and I have a little transistor. So one day, I think it was the second or third day you were on the air, I took this transistor with me. I had to go out, and I looked so silly, a woman of my age with a transistor in the street, you know. It looks ridiculous, so I try and keep it in my shopping basket and listen in very carefully. Well, this day I was waiting for a bus. And I turned away. I didn't see the bus coming, and I had you and Timothy blaring out, you know. All of a sudden, I turned around, and here's the bus at the stop. So I quickly put my thumb on the transistor to turn the noise off, because I felt so embarrassed getting into a bus full of people. It was packed.
Don't tell me.
So I hopped in, you see, and I'm standing here right up near the driver, and all of a sudden the driver starts saying, where's that noise coming from? I didn't know what it was. I didn't realise. Where's that noise coming from? And he stopped the bus, and he got out, and he lifted up the bonnet, and he looked all around the bus. And it was only when I got off I realised it was coming from my shopping basket.
He probably thought he had a creaky universal joint or something. But if you do listen, you'll probably hear expressions that you remember quite well. Today one popped out, Unikiwi.
That's right.
I can remember Nick saying that. I can remember him saying, and she was so excited she ran round with one leg up in the air.
Yes, oh yes.
These have all remained in the memory.
Some of the things you say, I go, ooh, how's he going to get out of that?
Well, see, I was taught by a master.
Yes. I tell you what, there's one you haven't used yet.
What's that?
You're not worth a cracker.
Oh, you're not worth a cracker. That's right.
Goodness, the session wouldn't have been the same without that, would it?
Talking about commercials and getting behind in the Nicky and Graham program on 3UZ, I remember we borrowed a tune from Kiss Me Kate called Brush Up Your Adverts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have that version, and Nancy hasn't got hers. Mine was destroyed, I think, in the fire. I lost so many memories in that fire. But we do have Brush Up Your Shakespeare. But unfortunately, these are not Nicky lyrics. These are... We were working at the Plaza Theatre Northcote, Nicky and myself, and that was one of the songs we sang. But it went, brush up your adverts, keep your mind on your work, brush up your adverts, and I can't remember anymore. Or you're something you will shirk, I think. It wasn't the greatest parody we've ever done.
No, but it was good, and I had that until recently. I can't find it.
It's gone. Your mind's gone.
I don't know. A lot of the old records have buckled, too, with age and heat and one thing and another. Tell a little bit, though, about...
about the Plaza. Yes, at the Plaza Theatre Northcote. Well, it was a great training ground for people. It was a sort of second-run Tivoli, with all respect to people who did work at the Plaza, but and certainly some very big names worked there. George Wallace, George Wallace Senior, worked there. Jim Gerald, Oh, a lot of big names. But Nicky and Graham worked there. I don't think we had the best act in the world, but what we did do was fill the place every night, which was a bit unusual at the Plaza. Mondays and Tuesdays were a bit off. But I remember coming out and doing the bit with Nick, and every night I started to notice that in the second row from the front, always in the same seat, was a little fellow who had a very pale face, paler than mine, that's saying something. And he'd be there every night. And I remember saying to one of the people, is he a friend of the... And they said, no, he just pays for his seat and comes every night. And guess who it was? Bert Newton. Really was.
Bert Newton.
Yeah.
He was at 3XY too, wasn't he?
He was at 3XY before any of us, I think. A lot of people have worked. I think Eric Pearce has worked at 3XY.
Yes, and DB.
And 3DB, and then
yes.
Adelaide and all sorts of things.
Mm.
Who else? Name some of the people that were associated with Chatterbox Corner over the years, Nancy.
Oh, my goodness, Graham. Now, this is the thing I find hardest as I grow older, is to remember names. But Dick Bentley was one.
Dick Bentley?
Yes. There were so many, oh, boy.
I keep trying to think of a fellow who was an announcer later on at night, and it was...
Because Bobby Horsfall was one of the juniors.
Horsfall.
He was one of the juniors. There were so many, though.
The evening announcer, though, I keep wanting to say Rainsford, and I know that's quite wrong. Would it have had Rain?
Rod Gainsford.
Gainsford.
Rod Gainsford, oh,
that's
yes.
That's right.
And Mr. Lee Murray.
Mr. Lee Murray was associated with 3AW.
Yes, I had that little conversation one day.
Well, he'd heard some incorrect information, and I had to clear it up, Nancy Lee, because he apparently said to a class full of people that I had at one point mentioned something derogatory about Nick, and that's not what offended me so much as I was worried that he would think that I might be so unintelligent as to do that, even if I thought it.
I heard your explanation.
Are you putting up with all sorts of TV troubles because your present set has had it? And you're not doing anything about it because you're afraid that the set probably needs a new picture tube or some other expensive part? Are you putting off calling a repairman until the set becomes completely unbearable or fails altogether? Well, there is such a simple answer to your problems. Call reliable Radio Rentals. Trade in your box of troubles and rent your next TV from Radio Rentals. From then on, if anything goes wrong, all you have to do is phone, and Radio Rentals will call and fix your set. Free. No ifs, no ands, and no buts. Radio Rentals, the #1 TV renters, 637428. Southern Motors have a message for women who don't know where to look for a rear end wobble. Oh, I'd check my pantyhose for that, Mum. For ladies who don't know, Southern Motors says, don't worry, you don't have to know. Southern Motors makes sure that things like rear-end wobbles just don't happen to their famous blue ribbon Holdens. Or things like worn tyres or faulty transmission, or dicey brakes or flat batteries. Every safety point is checked on every blue ribbon Holden. Tirana, Monaros, Premiers, can't say the next word. Brahms. A complete range from 63 model EH sedans and wagons to HT sedans and wagons. So all you need to know about used cars is Southern Motors, 1040 Dandenong Road, Carnegie.
Set the scene right with carpet, so tough to dance on,
Smooth to lie on.
colors.
Right, honey, am I?
Floor Coverings Proprietary Limited, the only with it place to buy wall-to-wall carpet. We've got the range, we've got the know-how. It's the Proprietary Limited that makes the difference at City, Bowood, Mentone and Malvern. Come and see us.
Set the scene right with carpet,
Just for your tippy-tip toes.
One of the most important things to consider about television is the cost. What are you getting for the money you're paying? Don't forget all the extra hidden costs that you have to pay when you own your own TV. When you rent your TV from Radio Rentals, your low rental covers you for all breakdowns and repairs. It covers you for installation, license, antenna, everything. And there are no hidden extras. If there are, you write to me and tell me, but I know there aren't. Choose your set from a range of over 25 different models of Baird receivers. I've got a Baird receiver right here, about 2 yards away from me. Only at Radio Rentals will you find such a choice of sets and rates. Visit any of their showrooms or ring Radio Rentals 637428. It's 23 minutes past 12. You're listening to Happening Radio, Age Radio 3XY from Frankston by the Sea, from Nancy Lee by the Sea. Gary's down here today but can't talk because he's on another station. Michael is not here today, but he's doing quite well. Kathy Rooster?
Oh, no, don't you start that.
But he is. I've seen him on television. He's inclined to scowl when he started, and I thought I might give him a phone call, but you noticed it too.
I have told him not to scowl, but Mike is the type who finds it very hard to grin all the time. You know, and now and again, if there's cause for it, he'll smile, and it's good.
Of course, that would be the other extreme if one went round grinning all the time. But he's doing terribly well. You must be very proud of them both.
Well, I'm very proud of them both, not just because of what they're doing, but because they're wonderful sons. And I love them dearly, and we're like sisters and brothers, really. And I feel that they can come to me and tell me about anything, talk to me, you know.
Nancy, was Nick strict with them?
I hope. I hope, Gary.
Was Nicky strict with them?
Nick was firm, yes. Nick was firm. I wouldn't say he was terribly strict. He was so caught up with his work and one thing and another, you know, that he was protected a lot from home life, from any troubles or worries. I mean, the last thing on earth I would do if the boys had played up would be to say, wait till your father comes home, because I don't believe in that anyway. I think a mother should be able to control the children without having to pull poor old Dad into the picture as soon as he comes home. I think it's an awful thing to do. But I remember one day, he believed in a little smack on the tail, just a little smack on the tail if it was needed. Yeah. And I remember one day he had called out to Gary when Gary was just a little boy. I think Gary was concentrating on learning the words of a song for Sunday school. Yeah. And Nick called out to him, and Gary didn't hear him, you see, and Nick called out again, and still Gary didn't answer, and Gary had his back to his dad, and Nick came up with his hand raised just to give him a pat on the tail, and I'm watching all this, and all of a sudden Gary starts to sing Away in a Manger, and the hand just went slowly down to his side, and he just looked at me and shrugged, you know, as if to say, what could you do, Mum?
Mum, you can't buy. I can distinctly remember, getting back to method in the house, Nick certainly had a lot of method. I can remember when I stayed with you, we were all rostered for the lav. Everyone had to do, everyone had their own quarter hour. And whether you could do anything or not, you still had to sit there. And I think my turn was last. Because in all things, the family came first. Remember that?
Nick used to take the paper out, you see, when he was going into the studio.
What paper, darling? What are we talking about?
Oh, no, dear, not that. No, the daily newspaper.
Oh,
he
that's
would
right,
take out, and he would study that, you see, before he went into the studio, and this was a very important time
But it was at a certain time every day, wasn't it?
Yes.
And the boys had a certain time, and guests had I don't know when you fitted your...
I remember when J. Martell came out, he was a very, very, very fat American sponsor, and he broke the thing.
Oh, where were you when the porcelain hit the floor? Dear me.
Well, I was certainly not there.
Oh, I'd forgotten all about that. I can distinctly remember this, too. Once again, staying at you. I must have lived at your place in the bungalow.
I think you did. You used to have cups of tea, and occasionally I think I grilled you a bit of steak.
Well, I can distinctly remember having a bath was a great time because all sorts of fun and games went on. I think perhaps we all got in together, not me, but the kids and Nick got in together and played whatever you play in baths. But I can remember young Michael, who must have been, 3, 4, 5, I don't know. But it might have been a Saturday, and all the neighbours are outside mowing their lawns. And Michael saw what was happening. The bath was filling, and it was obviously Dad, and that meant fun and games. So Michael is running up the street, screaming out, Gary! Gary, come quickly! Dad's having a bath! It sounded like he had one every 4.5 years.
Wonderful times. Yes, they used to have these warships and things, you know, submarines and...
Yeah. Oh, I love this. We're obviously not going to fit in too many ads.
Ray, do you remember the story of John McMahon coming into the studio, and this was when Nick used the great Australian adjective, and John McMahon trying to tell... I can't say it now. If you don't remember this, it's
Kathy,
no good
it wasn't
going
John McMahon.
Who was it?
Happy Hammond.
Was it?
Hap came round to visit us and didn't know we're on the air. And Nick had this very quiet, close to the microphone style, and he's just talking, and there weren't any red lights, or if they were, they weren't working. 3UZ in the old days really didn't go in for that kind of thing. So Nick's just saying, so and so and so. Hap comes in quietly, and he goes, oh, g'day, Hap, and so and so and so. And Happy, God bless him, didn't know that we're on the air, had no idea that the microphone was open. And he said something, 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 and dropped a nice big bloody, very clearly. And in those days, that was considered terribly serious. And Hap went white when he knew he was on the air because he had this image of being very, very clean, which Hap is, and doing, I think, a spot for children in the mornings on his 3AW breakfast session. I've got a lot of stories about Hap, too. Oh, well, we must have Hap down one day.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
This sort of fits in with the program because it's an old song, and this is the first time I think we've repeated a recording in this program after nearly 4 weeks of broadcasting, but it's called Ukulele Talk.
Ukulele talk, he goes for ukulele talk, so I talk to you.
Okay, I think I'll take that opportunity to fade out from Mr. Kennedy and Co, and we'll listen to the last segment of this next week. Hearing him discuss times of old with Nancy Lee, reflecting on 3UZ and shared perspectives. In fact, it's interesting to hear how involved they were with each other's lives. And I think that BIOP program about Graham Kennedy sort of does sort of look at his relationship with Nikki and Nancy Lee, and obviously he found a bit of a sanctuary in their home, and quite an intimate, candid discussion there. So I'm pleased that one survived. Sadly, most of the other recordings on Mr. Hare's side have now disappeared into the ether. So, including all of our Orbiter X. I'm sorry, folks, no more Orbiter X. We won't be able to do that for a while. Maybe they'll show up somewhere else. But, yay, all right. What shall I do next? I'm feeling terribly tired tonight. Let's see. I have a piano roll sitting on the setup. What is it? I think a bit of Edwardian kitsch. This could be a bit of a circuit breaker. Let's have a listen and see what it is. I think it's the Light Horse Brigade or some Edwardian rubbish, but I've got to use these piano rolls. So let's wind up the other fader and see what's happening. VK3SL. Okay. Yep, looks like that's on. Now, what is the selection? Oh, yes, here we go. It's Napoleon's Last Charge. It's a march gallop. So I thought that would fit in with the Edwardian kitsch theme. So I'll just climb over all this equipment here and see what happens. Right, finding my seat, pedaling up, and let's have a listen to Napoleon's Last Charge. Right. Oh, that's my workout. Napoleon's Last Charge. And I love these four-hand arrangements. No, I don't really love them. I find them sort of strangely, perversely fascinating. Yes, March Gallop. And there we have some Edwardian kitsch. Let's switch the microphone back to the desk. A bit of pianola madness. All right, so we change gear. We look at some classical music now for the last part of the test transmission. This is VK3SL testing on 160 on 2 meters and also streaming live on the Broadwave streaming service. Now, I was going to feature some early stereo, which is completely useless, but this stereo recording is actually also wide band, and I think it was actually Blumline's approach. Let's have a look here and see what it says. The Bell Labs recording Stokowski. Yeah, that's right. We're listening to the music of Leopold Stokowski and the Philadelphia Orchestra. Test recording early stereo. But the microphones were capable of recording above 10K, which is quite remarkable for that period. And this is a test recording, so I think we'll have a sample of this. It does sound really good. This is transferred using a laser turntable, apparently, so it's very noise-free, and it gives an idea of what could be captured. Now, there's quite a lot of early Stokowski using sort of progressive formats. He was certainly interested very much in the in technology, and championed the stereo in its early days, and also, of course, with Fantasia using the multi-track approach there. That was all part of Stokowski's undertakings. We'll have a listen to Berlioz's Roman Carnival Overture. And and we'll listen to the sounds of an orchestra captured in wide range fidelity from that period. So under the baton of Leopold Stokowski, we hear the Philadelphia Orchestra with Berlioz. Hey, that was amazing. Berlioz's Roman Carnival Overture, recorded in 1931. It's hard to believe that was recorded that early. And that was with Leopold Stokowski conducting the Philadelphia Orchestra. And what does it say about this? It says Arthur Keller had installed his recording equipment in the basement below the orchestra stage, where the Victor Talking Machine Company electrical recording equipment had also been installed in 1926. And Stokowski later said that when he heard the Roman Carnival recording, that's the one we just heard, at the Bell Laboratories in New York City, it was the best quality recording he had ever heard. So that was considered to be groundbreaking. Certainly sounded pretty good here on the big speaks, and interesting to hear that example. There are a few things emerging from those experiments with wide-range recordings, and of course that's actually also a binaural recording, so it can be heard in sort of pseudo-stereo. So if you look up Berlioz's Roman Carnival Overture, early stereo would be the tags to use, the descriptors, and you'll find it there on YouTube. But it's a part of a compilation of Stokowski's music. But thoroughly enjoyed that. It's great playing. God, amazing. Orchestral sound of the Philadelphia Orchestra. They had a very strong signature. They had a very clear signature sound, that orchestra, with very lush string playing and punctuating brass, etc., etc., etc. All right, let's have a listen to something that's quite sort of polar opposite in a way, sort of winding up now. And I'd like to feature something with Simon Goldberg, and this sort of came about because I received an email from John Fleming, who mentioned he loves the playing of Lily Krauss. Now, Lily Krauss was a great Hungarian pianist who had a very long career. She was recording in her 30s right up until I think she died in the early 90s, thereabouts. Anyhow, she had decades made decades of recordings and at the highest level. And I'm particularly interested in her association with Simon Goldberg. He was a wonderful violinist who was active similarly from the 30s up until the 80s. He died in the early 90s as well. And they had a great sonata partnership. They performed, they regularly toured together. And in fact, they were touring in Java during the Second World War, when they were both interned by the Japanese and put into a prison camp where they stayed for 2 years. And it's the most extraordinary story. They were treated very well, and he actually formed an orchestra in the prison camp, and in the absence of any music, he just wrote it all out by memory for the musicians. So it's one of those remarkable stories of making do in possible situations. There's also a personal association with Simon Goldberg's heritage through one of my uni professors, played in Simon Goldberg's orchestra and had quite a few stories about him, including another tale during that period when he was interned in Java. He had his Stradivarius violin with him, and he actually disassembled the instrument with a scalpel and very carefully cut it up into pieces and then wrapped it in newspaper and put it on top of a cupboard. And several years later, after the war, he came back and found the instrument still there, but he thought the instrument had a better chance of surviving if it was in pieces. Wouldn't be as likely to be sort of identified and pillaged. So it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but it paid off and the instrument survived. But Goldberg was a protege of Carl Flesch, and I think he was actually one of Carl Flesch's favourite students. And he was also leader of the Berlin Philharmonic for quite a few years, from 1929, I think, until the early 30s, when he had to move out because he was Jewish. And after which time he developed that sonata partnership with Lily Krauss. So, I've known these recordings for a long time, and I think they're amazing. So I'll have a listen to Simon Goldberg and Lily Krauss playing famous Beethoven violin sonata. We'll just hear the first movement of Beethoven's Spring Sonata. It's number 5. So yes, we'll have a bit of a listen. The recording is not great on this. I've probably got a better copy of it somewhere. I have got them on 78, but I just can't be bothered finding them at the moment. It's easier to just jump on YouTube with these sort of things. But Oliver, and this was recorded in Tokyo, actually, in 1936. It's funny to think it was recorded in Japan, and then he was interned by the Japanese only a few years later. But yeah, we'll have a listen and enjoy the music of Simon Goldberg. Beautiful fiddle player, and Lily Krause, the most sympathetic pianist. A fabulous synergy here between these two artists. It's VK3SL testing. I'm going to start again because this is a bit of a buffering issue here, and it's sort of quite disruptive. Let's hope it does it correctly this time. And we heard Simon Goldberg and Lily Krause playing the Beethoven's Violin Sonata No. 5, commonly known as the Spring Sonata. It's one of my personal faves. I love that sonata. I love the tune. It's got a really nice melody. And that was recorded in Tokyo in 1936, and sort of featuring a mini feature on Simon Goldberg and celebrating the partnership he had with Lily Krause. A long-standing musical partnership. They made quite a lot of recordings. They recorded all the Beethoven sonatas, I think, and they also had a trio with Anthony Pini. You see their recordings turn up as well, so maybe there's a theme to unfold. I'd like to hear more of Goldberg's playing. It's very intimate playing. It's quite different to that very demonstrative international style of playing. It's much more sort of it's more chamber music oriented, I suppose. So a lot of character and a quiet intimacy. It's beautiful. And I remember another anecdote came to mind about Goldberg. I remember Chris telling me that, this is Chris Martin telling me that when they were on tour, that Simon Goldberg they'd go to the orchestra would move into a hotel. Within 5 minutes of entering, he'd hear Goldberg playing his method of scales, fresh method of practicing scales, and he'd do about 3 hours scale practice a day, regardless. It was absolutely religious. So he was an incredibly dedicated musician, and very, very quiet and very noble performer, I think. We might just finish with another one of his, I think. That could be a nice way to wrap things up for this week, and hopefully I'll have a bit more energy next time. I think this working full-time business is not the best. It's absolutely drained me. Yeah, so never the mind. I will try and reconstitute, and I will have a bit of a listen back on Channel D after this is finished, and but I probably won't hang around very long, and we'll see what happens. But anyhow, we'll finish up with this very beautiful melody of Gluck, played by Simon Goldberg. I'll let that finish my test missions for tonight, and I will wish the listener a very good week. This is VK3SL saying cheers for now.